This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your local Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
We are ready to rock at NRG Stadium. Whitney Merciless with the sack. Throws left side of the end zone. Caught. Hopkins. Touchdown, Houston.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's playoff season, not Christmas season. It's playoff season, and we are happy to talk all about it here on Texans Extra Points. I'm Drew Doherty, your host, with my good friends DP Sidhu of HoustonTexans.com and Sean Pendergast of Sports Radio 610. He also hosts the postgame show, and he writes some rockin' articles on the Houston Press. And we've got a lot to discuss, you two, but please sit still, sit tight, and let's get some news of the week out of the way. And we start with the playoffs are here again. After going through what the Texans went through last season, Deshaun Watson, under center, says speed is the big difference from the regular season to the postseason.
You know, going into every game, every play matters, but you don't really know it until you actually experience that. And that's what we experienced last year. It's going to happen fast. It's going to come by fast. The game is going to go by faster. The players play a little bit more faster than the regular season. Everything just speeds up. So just being able to, you know, be prepared and see how, you know, the energy and everything changes in a playoff game, it really helps out.
And one of the big stories of the week was the return of J.J. Watt. Came off the injured reserve and is on the 53-man roster. And he says, hey, I'll play as much as they need me against the Buffalo Bills.
We have a good plan. We have a plan. I mean, I could play them all if I had to. There's no doubt about it. But we have a good plan in place, and we're going to execute that plan, and it'll be good.
And who are these Buffalo Bills? Well, they won 10 games, and they come to town with a ferocious defense, if you listen to Bill O'Brien and Laramie Tunsil.
With their scheme and their players and how they coach it and how they play it, I mean, it's very difficult to get the ball downfield. You know, it's very, very difficult. They do a good job of making sure that they keep plays in front of them, no matter what coverage they're in, and they do a good job of combining coverage and rush.
It's a good front seven. You know, we got to come with our stuff on Saturday and study, watch film, and get to know our opponents and be ready to play Saturday.
So that's a little of what we heard and saw during the week of work, and let's get into it. How much more confident are you this year, as opposed to 365 days ago, roughly, about the Texans and their playoff chances? We'll start with you ladies first, DB.
You know, I was confident last year because of the season that Deshaun Watson was having, but I think I'm more confident this year because he's had that first playoff game under his belt. And, you know, I remember him standing at the podium after the season, and he said, I'm gonna think about this playoff loss for the next few months and throughout the offseason. So I think he's really learned from that playoff experience. He's grown from it. We've seen him build on his game this year. I think along with that, the O-line is completely revamped. He's got much better protection than he did this time last year, so I feel a lot more confident in that. I also think our special teams this year is the best it's ever been. So the defense, special teams, offense, I think they're all clicking. They've got a chemistry that we didn't see this time last year, and that's why I'm excited to see them.
Awesome. How are you encouraged?
In terms of confidence with this team this year, it's interesting because I think this is a better football team than the one that went into the playoffs last year. Just empirically, it's a better football team. It's a better roster, especially on the offensive side of the football. It's a more talented football team. I just don't know what to expect from this football team. That's the thing that scares me a little bit.
It's understandable seeing what we saw the last 2 years.
Yeah, the ceiling is higher for this football team than any team that may have taken the field in the playoffs for this team going back to the Kubiak days. They beat Kansas City on the road. They finally exercised the demons against New England this year, and then they go out the next week and they lose to the Denver Broncos. So I don't know what to think about this game on Saturday just in terms of my confidence. I think the Texans are going to win the game. I know we'll get to that. But I'm intrigued by this football team in terms of what the upside is. With Deshaun Watson, anything is possible.
My ears kind of perked up like a German shepherd's when I heard Watson talk about that stuff, the speed aspect, which we heard him say earlier in the show. I mean, how much do you think that means, speed, regular season versus postseason? Because, hey, they're playing football, but it's different. I mean, it's really different, Sean.
Yeah, it is. I think that's an advantage that the Texans have in this game just because the most important guy on the field for either of these teams is going to be the quarterback. I think the game's going to come down to big plays, either positive or negative, with these two quarterbacks, I think is ultimately going to be the difference in this game. And Deshaun's played games at playoff speed before. I think both the game against the Colts last year and some of the big games he played in college, he's just got a much bigger experience bank he can go to on stages like this than Josh Allen does. I think for Deshaun, it matters the most, and that's why I feel pretty good about things.
And the complement of receivers with Will Fuller, with DeAndre Hopkins, that makes things all the better. Now, we'll see about Fuller. It's going to be a game-time decision, I'm sure. But if Will Fuller is out there, it's a different look defenses are going to give Watson and company.
Yeah, you and I were actually discussing this a little bit earlier, that the Texans are 8-3 when Will Fuller's in the lineup. Well, they're 4-0 in their last 4 wins with Will Fuller. The last 4 wins they've had, Will Fuller's been out on the field. So as the season has progressed and we've seen Will Fuller out there, I mean, he just changes what this offense looks like. I also think DeAndre Hopkins this time last year was not at 100%. Yeah. So he's healthy. If Fuller can even be out there for part of the game, even if it's not the entire game, I think it just changes what the other receivers are able to get. Everyone's going to get fed when Will Fuller's out there because you have to cover him.
And I don't want to speak for all 3 of us, but I pretty much think you agree. We're not saying Will Fuller is the best receiver or the best offensive player on this team, but in a way, he's the most important non-Deshaun Watson player for this offense when you're causing matchup problems, right?
It's undeniable. I mean, the numbers are there just in terms of Deshaun's numbers, in terms of quarterback rating, yards per attempt, third down conversions. Will Fuller opens up everything because of his skill set. Now, we have comparative numbers like that for Fuller because he's out all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we never know what it's like without DeAndre Hopkins because the dude never misses football games. It would probably be similar if DeAndre weren't there. We'd notice a difference as well, but it's undeniable. Yes, Will Fuller, talent-wise, is probably the 4th or 5th best offensive player on this team. He might be the biggest X factor, though.
All right, we're going to talk about number 99 and the defense after the break. And before we get to those commercials, we got to turn it over to John Harris for a little telestrator action and show us what the Texans can expect from the Bills' defense.
Welcome to Texas Telestrated, presented by BMW. I'm your host, John Harris, and it's time to look at the Buffalo Bills' defense, one of the best units in the league, and they have a lot of things going for it. A lot of talent, a lot of speed, a lot of aggressiveness, well coached, and they're going to throw a lot of different wrinkles at the Houston Texans, and this, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, is one of them. It's one in which Duck Hodges is sitting here on 3rd down. Now, it's 3rd and about 9. There's a stick right there, so it's 3rd and about 9, and you're going to show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 Buffalo Bills up here. Yet, who's the most dangerous Bill in this one? Right there, Micah Hyde. And you'll see that in a second. What they want to do is show you a bunch of different guys up front, and then they're going to peel out. The question becomes, who peels out? In this case, you're going to get these 2 guys peeling out over here. So you're creating an overload situation on this side, and then Hyde is going to come here. Now, he's going to get Jordan Poyer to replace him over here in coverage. Tre'Davious White's going to play a corner here, half field safety. Levi Wallace is going to then match up here, and it looks like it was probably some sort of cover 2 zone blitz. So they're going to bring 5, but which 5 are they bringing? That's the key here. So mugging in the A-gaps with 2 linebackers, actually 3 linebackers. Here's Jerry Hughes, a great rusher. Here are the 2 other rushers over here. So you'll see Hyde motion Poyer over this way. Let me run it back. Watch Hyde. Get back over there, because I'm coming. Now, what creates issue is that with these 2 guys dropping, these 2 offensive linemen are really responsible for 1 guy. But now you've got 3 offensive linemen and 1 back for 1, 2, 3, 4. And if any of those guys blow the protection, this one's over. So what happens here is the right tackle, Matt Filer, he should stay on this block. But because Hyde flashes, he's like, uh-oh, I got to go over here. And so now he tries to get a piece of Hyde as well. Well, James Conner's like, wait a second, the safety is mine. They blow that protection. Here comes Trent Murphy for the big sack, get off the field. Now, take a look at it from this angle, and you can see this a little bit better. Inside linebackers mugging in the A-gaps. Low Alexander just going to rush from out here, and here comes your overload situation. There, here comes Hyde, and watch the Steelers not be able to attack this. They do a nice job splitting the protection. getting those 3 on these 3. Now, depending on what the call was, a lot of times you give a 5-0 call, meaning these 5 are going to take the front 5, and the back is going to end up taking the extra rusher. Well, he expected the extra rusher to come from over here, one of these 2 guys. When they didn't come, he should have wheeled out and he's a little late, but then he goes to the right guy, but the tackle should stay here. But because they don't and they blow that protection, Trent Murphy's able to get there for a sack. That's part of the key to facing this Bills defense. You're going to see a lot of different things like that, and you better know who has what based on what protection, or somebody is going to be screaming home to the quarterback, getting sacks like the Bills did last year when they came here to NRG Stadium.
We all love next-gen stats powered by AWS. We all love sacks, but we also love stopping the run. And J.J. Watt, when he's on the field, he is stopping the run to the outside, meaning going around the tackles at 1.5 yards better than when he's off the field. So it's an average of 6.3 versus 4.8. That is startling stuff, and this is a startling show. Well, maybe not, but this is Texans Extra Points. I'm Drew, that's DP and Sean. So we got the game coming up in just an hour or so, and let's talk about Watt being back. Let's look at it in a vacuum. What does he mean, and what can he do when he's on the field? And we'll start with you, Sean.
Yeah, I think we got to wait and see how he's going to be used. You know, I think for sure he's going to be out there in passing situations. That's what this team needs the most from anybody right now. J.J. Watt and other people, they need to generate a pass rush. So we know he's going to be out there in those situations. I get the sense with J.J. Watt that there's another ancillary benefit just to having him back on the field, on the practice field, around the team, day to day. You guys are in the building more than I am, but you can just sense it just from watching the practice footage.
I typed faster this week because he was back.
Because he was back, yeah, he raises everybody's game, Drew, including yours. So, I think it's a dual benefit with J.J. Watt, just seeing the guy back out there in that number 99 jersey.
So he brings up what he means, ancillary benefits wise. But what's he mean when he's on the field to the other guys around him? What happens and what changes with opposing offenses and with the Texans defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime J.J. Watt's out there, he's going to command the attention of at least 1 or 2 defenders of the opposing team. So it frees up a lot of plays for guys like Whitney Mercilus. We saw what he was able to do early on in the year. He was getting all the sacks. He was getting to the quarterback. I talked to DJ Reader this week, and he even said that when J.J. Watt left the game for the second half of the season, he said it was very hard for everyone else to sort of mimic what a guy like him brings to the field. Like, he's not everybody can play on that island the way J.J. plays. So I think J.J.'s mere presence frees up a lot of big plays for everyone else out there.
She brings up a good point, and she brought up 2 names in Mercilus and Reader. I think you can also add Jacob Martin in there as well, who we haven't seen in the last few weeks. He's back. He's going to play, and he's got that speed rush aspect that this team and this defense really needs.
Yeah, I think the attention he attracts. You know, my co-host on the radio, former Texan Seth Payne, brings this up. He brought it up a lot this week with JJ. He brought up the 2015 game against the Patriots where JJ had that club hand that he played with, and it was a tough game for JJ. But the one thing, if you go back and watch that game, he attracted a ton of attention. You still have to account for him while he's out on the field. So yeah, I think DP makes a great point. You know, guys like Whitney Mercilus, you brought up Jacob Martin, Drew. He's going to, just his mere presence on the field, the attention he's going to attract is going to elevate the games of the other guys around him.
What have you guys seen from the secondary over the last month or so? It's drastically different than what we saw September, October. What's going on there in the back end?
You know, I think that's just been such a pleasant surprise for 2019. Heading into this season, a lot of people were concerned about the secondary. There's not enough depth, but you add a lot of guys like Vernon Hargraves, Garyon Conley, and Bradley Roby in the offseason, the other 2 guys during the season, and you just have a lot of depth at cornerback that you didn't have before. And you've got Jonathan Joseph, obviously. He's not able to be out there every single snap of every single game, but he's so tough. He's going to be out there every single week. But you know that you've got a great system that you can mix and match corners depending on who you're going against. I think the depth is what's been the biggest surprise this year for the 2019 season. All
right, time for some Texans trivia. We got to take a break. So which 2 Texans are the all-time leaders in postseason tackles franchise history? We'll have that in just a bit.
Peterman takes the snap. He's looking left. He throws that way. It's picked off by Jonathan Joseph across the 15, 10, 5. Rock and roll. The Texans go in front on the pick 6.
It was week 6 last season. The Texans were 2-3, and they were facing a third straight overtime game because they were tied at 13. And Jonathan Joseph made sure that didn't happen. Pick 6, that was a fun one, and it will be cool to see if he can do that again, perhaps, later this afternoon. Drew Doherty, DP Sidhu, and Sean Pendergast here from the Ford Studios on Texans Extra Points. And let's talk about this Bills defense. It's amazing. They've been very nasty. I think it's the nastiest defense the Texans have seen the last 2 years, talking about that one that we saw last year. And all they've done is add Ed Oliver to it. So let's focus on Tre'Davious White. He did a pretty good job on DeAndre Hopkins last season. What do you see from Tre'Davious White, the secondary there for the Buffalo Bills, Sean?
He's going to follow DeAndre Hopkins around, I would imagine. This is where the Will Fuller variable really comes in for me. They've got some guys on the back end that can make some plays. I think a lot of it's on Deshaun Watson, quite honestly, to read some of the tricks that they're going to be trying to pull on him. That's what happened in the wild card game last year. You go back and watch that Colts game, all kinds of games the Colts were playing up front, and it really got to Deshaun. This is to me, Tre'Davious White and Hopkins will be a fun matchup to watch. This is on Deshaun to figure out what's going on, and on Bill O'Brien to scheme the Texans into some things, especially if Will Fuller's not out on the field.
No doubt. And then up front, they've got everybody that does the normal stuff, and you add in Ed Oliver, who we saw just wreck shop around here for the last 3 or 4 years in college at U of H. It's a pretty good front.
Yeah, they've got Jerry Hughes, they've got Ed Oliver, they've got a mix of veterans.
And Laramie Tunsil knows about Jerry Hughes.
Yes, they played quite a bit when he was at Miami, being in the same division. But I think they all play together well. Like with a really good secondary, it helps the pass rush helps the secondary. I think they're just playing cohesively very well together. But I think Sean's right. I mean, it's gonna be on Deshaun to not make those mistakes, not let the secondary fool him into making any mistakes.
And a lot of times you can look at a game and kind of predict, well, who has a better quarterback? They're probably going to win. I think that's the case with the Texans. But that's not to throw any sort of shade at Josh Allen.
Yeah, he's made a big jump from year 1 to year 2, and Bill O'Brien's touched on it a few times this week. You can tell that there's some concern about Josh Allen's skill set. I think keeping him in the pocket and getting pressure. This is where J.J. Watt coming back is going to be a big deal. They're going to need to force some turnovers in this game.
Okay, it's time for Gatorade players to watch. Let's stick with you, Sean. Who are you keeping your eyes on, Texans-wise, to get a victory?
Yeah, Carlos Hyde is mine. I do think that running the football is going to be a big key. That is one way you can attack this Buffalo defense, is to run the football. They haven't been great against the run this year. They're middle of the pack against the run. Really good against the pass, middle of the pack against the run. When Carlos Hyde has run 19 times or more in games this year, 6 times, the Texans are 6-0.
Yeah.
So Carlos Hyde and riding that running game.
And that 19 times, it doesn't necessarily, we'll take it. It doesn't necessarily mean, though, that he has to go for like 5 yards a carry. As long as he's getting the volume of runs in, they have one.
Keep the Texans staying 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a long day for Buffalo.
All right, DP, who's yours?
A little known guy whose name is DeAndre Hopkins. He
I've heard of him.
Flies under the radar a lot, but I think the Tre'Davious White matchup is going to be a big one. Tre'Davious White leads the NFL with 6 interceptions, quarterback passer ratings around 38, 39 with him on the field. But I think DeAndre Hopkins loves going against these top corners in the league. I love watching matchups with him and some of these top-ranked corners. So I'll be watching him. I think, especially if Will Fuller's back on the field, you'd expect to see some big plays from number 10.
I know you well, and this is kind of like a substitute for Jalen Ramsey, the second one, which we did not get to see because Ramsey was gone when the Texans were in London with him. So you're pumped about the Hopkins versus
That's the last time I picked him, actually.
Ramsey matchup. I'm going with Whitney Merciless because Whitney had a good, strong season. I think he's much better, like a lot of guys are, with J.J. Watt in the lineup, and he was a playmaker when that guy was there. So 99 and 59, going to be fun to see, but give me Whitney Merciless. I'm going to go with him as
He's going to be in a good mood, too. He got paid.
Yes, he will. And I'm happy he's going to be around for a while. 3 contracts, Whitney Merciless. You don't say that about many NFL players. All right, we got to finish things up here in a little bit. Stick with us. This is Texans Extra Points.
Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your local Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
Welcome back. This is Texans Extra Points, and we've got a trivia question that you got to get the answer to. Who led the Texans, or who leads the Texans all time in postseason tackles? Well, it's a tie between Brian Cushing and Jonathan Joseph. So J-Joe gets a tackle today, he's the king when it comes to postseason tackles.
I don't know. Cushing looks like he could still suit up. I could see him throwing a uniform on, just going out there and getting a tackle.
Totally see that. Sean Pendergast, DP Sidhu. Got to get into our FCC keys to victory for the Houston Texans. We'll start with you, DP. What do they have to do to pick up a W?
I'm going to go both quarterbacks here. With Deshaun Watson, he's talked about it. He needs to limit his turnovers. This is a secondary that's very thirsty for interceptions. They can't confuse him. He can't get confused. He can't turn the ball over because that's momentum shifting in a game like this. And that's what happened last year against the Colts. For Josh Allen, I kind of want to see what happened to Deshaun last year to happen to Josh Allen. Confuse him. Have Romeo Crennel put some different looks out there. Really get under his skin. Make the day completely uncomfortable for him and get him out of his rhythm.
If that happens, this stadium will quake, and I'm cool with that. So I like your ideas there. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, I think that Buffalo's going to have a tough time stringing together long drives. I think they may have to in this game in order to score. It's an offensively challenged football team. This team is a defensively focused football team. The only way they overcome their maybe inability to go on long drives is to hit some deep shots down the field to John Brown. The Texans need to prevent big plays that allow the Bills to make up for a bunch of negative plays earlier in a series or earlier in a quarter, things like that. That's one. And I think number two, special teams. The Texans have been awesome in the coverage aspect of special teams. They've been okay in the return aspect. I think this is going to wind up being a field position, close kind of game in the end, and I think special teams will play a big factor.
Well, shining on special teams will go a long way to helping you on that first.
Yes.
As far as like making them go down the field, because Brian Anger, the punter, he's been dropping punts inside the 20 on.
He's been great.
Pretty much a regular basis.
Yeah, he's been really good.
Also gotten paid, so.
Yeah, that's another guy. Yeah, he's going to be around.
Happy people.
It's good stuff. Okay, for me, it's pretty simple. Hit them deep and hammer them with the high volumes of runs. You were talking about 19 times or more. So hit them deep, loosen them up, because hey, you want to go on these guys. I mean, they've played a bunch of subpar opponents, a bunch of sub 500 opponents and won like they should. But let's see what they can do with this complement of pass catchers and weapons for Deshaun Watson. So go deep and then let Carlos Hyde go to work. Let Duke Johnson mix it in too. I want to see the Texans run the ball with some efficiency and take some pressure off Deshaun Watson. Hey guys, this was a lot of fun. Let's do it again really soon, and let's hope that the Texans keep on winning, because January football is upon us. Enjoy the game. We will talk to you again very, very soon. Go Texans.
Thanks for watching Texans Extra Points. Now, leave your keys to the game in the comments below.